this electorate here in Griffith. And throughout the campaign, I said that we were targeting not just LNP seats, but also Greens political party seats, including, of course, beginning the campaign, coming straight to Brisbane on the Friday after the election was announced, going to the electorate of Dixon, where the magnificent ALP France was successful after 7 years of campaigning. And we also said that we'd campaign hard in Greens party seats that had been won in 2022 as well. What I have consistently said as well is that we've got fantastic Queenslanders in our caucus, including, of course, the Treasurer who's here with us today, but Annika Wells and Murray Watt as well, who sit in the Cabinet. But we needed more people, more Queenslanders, in order to be truly representative of the nation. And now that we have a caucus which is 124 strong, the largest ALP caucus that has ever existed in the federal parliament, it's fantastic that it's truly representative, that we won 7 seats in Queensland, 2 in WA, 2 in New South Wales, 2 in Victoria, 2 in Tasmania and 1 in South Australia, to add to the already fantastic team that was there in Canberra. In spite of all of this, one of the things that we're going to do is to not get carried away. We remain focused on the needs of Australians. That is what we have been elected to do. And here in Queensland, of course, Queensland in particular has a very bright future from the transition that will occur in the economy, from the skills that will be benefited from free TAFE, and from the deal that was done just the day before the budget with the Crisafulli government for better and fairer funding of schools, for the additional investments in Medicare, the additional urgent care clinics that will take place as well. Queensland as well, when we look at Australia's export potential and how the economy will grow, Queensland, as the most regional of states, has an enormous potential to be a driver of that economic growth into the future. And I know that these members here will continue to work so hard each and every day to represent their local communities, but also to make a contribution to the national debate. And that's why I'm so pleased that we were able to receive the result that we did. We're humbled by it. We're not getting carried away. We're going to make sure that whilst other political parties can fight each other and fight within their political parties, what we're focused on very much is the needs of the Australian people. And indeed, Queenslanders would be sympathetic with the fact that I've been in a flood-affected area yesterday, and here in Australia, of course, we have floods in some areas that have impacted tens of thousands of people, have been through a very distressing time, but we also have drought as well. And today, my Agriculture Minister is announcing an additional $36 million in new support for farms and for producers as well. My government will continue to be driven by those principles of no one held back and no one left behind. And that is something that over the next 3 years we will endeavour to justify the faith that the Australian people have shown in us and to earn their support. Many Queenslanders, like people throughout Australia, either voted Labor or gave us a high preference for the first time. We want to make sure that what were one-off voters into permanent Labor supporters by repaying the trust that has been placed in us. Can I conclude with just one fun fact, which is that when I look behind me here, what I see is people representative of the nation. My government now is the first cabinet that has a majority of women, 12 out of 23. When I look at people of different faiths, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different genders, what I see is a parliament that is representative of the Australian people. And just a fun fact that's been drawn to my attention is that there are more women whose name begins with A in the Labor Party caucus in the House of Representatives, 10, than there will be 9 coalition women on the floor of the House of Representatives, in the Liberal Party and the National Party combined. With Annika here, Anna Lee, Ailey France who's here, Alicia Payne, Alice Jordan-Baird, Ash Aimbahapaha, Anne Stanley, Alison Burns, Anne Urquhart and Amanda Rishworth. That says something about the effort that we have made to make sure that we have a caucus that is truly representative of our nation, women and men, as well as different other makeups as well. I make this point as well before I hand to the Treasurer, who's going to make some comments about some of the latest data that's been released. We don't stop here. I'm disappointed that there are not more regional Queensland representatives, and over coming months and over the coming years as well. Electorates that had strong campaigns, electorates like Capricornia and Flynn and others as well, will continue to campaign and continue to engage and also continue to represent all of Queensland and represent all of Australia. Some commented during the election campaign, why did you go to Bundaberg? Why did you go to Longreach? That's because I want to lead a government that represents the whole of Australia, regardless of what way people voted and regardless of who their representatives are. And we'll continue to be a government that represents not just South East Queensland, but regional Queensland as well, in what is the most regional of states right around Australia. I'll ask Jim to make some comments and then we're happy to take some questions.
Oh, thanks, PM, and thanks to the people of Queensland for more than doubling Labor's Queensland contingent in the House of Representatives when the Parliament meets again. Queensland will put a very strong team on the park tonight, and Queensland will put a very strong team in the Parliament. And you can see most of the new members behind us right now. I wanted to thank Anthony for his belief in Queensland, its economy, its people, its future. No matter who he supports tonight, we do consider him an honorary Queenslander. This is in many ways a second home. And I think we saw that reflected as well in the really quite extraordinary outcome that we saw in the election a few weeks ago. South East Queensland and Queensland more broadly is such a crucial part of the national economy, and it will be even better represented now as a consequence of the decisions that the people of Queensland made in sending these wonderful people to represent them in the House of Representatives, and of course Corinne Mulholland as well in the Senate. We're looking forward to serving with her. Now, Queenslanders voted for higher wages, lower income taxes and a plan to build Australia's future, with Queensland front and centre. Today we got more encouraging news about the fight against inflation. Today we learned that headline inflation at 2.4, underlying inflation at 2.8, means that both headline and underlying inflation are within the Reserve Bank's target band once again. Headline inflation in the lower half of the Reserve Bank's target band. That is very welcome and encouraging news. It shows that the progress that we've made together as Australians on inflation has been substantial and it has been sustained. This is the 9th consecutive month where headline inflation's been in the target band and the 5th consecutive month that underlying inflation has been in the target band. It's actually the longest period where both measures of inflation have been in the target range since this monthly data started being collected in 2018. So what we've managed to achieve as Australians is an economy where inflation's come down substantially, real wages are growing again, unemployment is low, we've got the debt down, our economy is growing, and we've seen interest rates cut twice in the space of 3 months. This progress that we're making together on inflation is part of the reason that the Reserve Bank has had the confidence to cut interest rates twice in 3 months, and the market is expecting more interest rate cuts to come. Now, we know despite all of this progress we've made together that the job is not finished because people are still under pressure and the global economic environment is so uncertain. But the encouraging news that we've seen on inflation, on wages, on unemployment, on job creation means that we are better prepared and better placed than most countries to deal with all this unpredictability and all of this volatility in the global economy. The last point I'd make is at a time where there is all of this uncertainty, the global contest for capital is as important as it's ever been, if not more so. And today we have launched the new online portal for Foreign Investment Review Board applications. We are strengthening and streamlining our FIRB processes, and we're modernising those processes as well. These new arrangements online from today means that it will be easier for people to invest in Australia and easier for the government to scrutinise those investments. It's all about strengthening and streamlining the investment processes and the red tape in this country, making it easier for us to scrutinise where that's necessary, but also welcoming investment that will make our economy more productive, create more jobs and more opportunities for more people right around Australia, including here in Queensland. Happy to take some questions.
Big global brands like Birkenstock and Pandora are looking to raise their prices globally in response to US tariffs. If more multinationals follow suit, will that ignite inflation here?
Yeah, that's one of the risks. One of the reasons why we think that the decisions taken out of Washington DC around tariffs are the wrong decisions for the American economy and indeed for the global economy is because of the risk that it pushes up prices. Tariffs are effectively an impost on customers. It makes goods more expensive and it has the capacity to slow global growth as well. And so we do factor that into our own forecast for inflation, our own forecast for growth here in Australia. Now, we are better placed and we are better prepared than most countries to deal with the fallout from all of these escalating trade tensions around the world, but we won't be immune from them. No country will be. And the risk of higher prices and slowing growth are really among the key concerns we have for these decisions announced out of Washington DC.
Prime Minister, you've had nearly a month to come up here and essentially say congratulations to the new members. Has that got anything to do with the game that's happening this evening?
I will be going this evening. I support Queensland 365 days a year and 362 nights. And I look forward to a terrific game this evening. But I've been to Queensland, it's almost 50 times since I've been elected Prime Minister. I came here twice in the last week before the election. I know that some of the commentators said about going to Dickson on day one and then on the day before the election that we were just playing with Peter Dutton. I said, whenever I was asked, and I may well have been asked by your good self, whenever asked, we were dead serious about getting ALE elected in Dickson, and that is precisely the result that we achieved. So I have regularly engaged in Queensland, as you know. One of the first announcements that we made this year when, as far as I was concerned, the campaign began on January 5 and 6, was on the Bruce Highway, the record investment that we announced, $7.2 billion. When I visited Gympie, I visited Rocky, I visited right up the coast, Townsville and Cairns, as well as Mount Isa during that visit. I intend to continue to be a regular visitor to Queensland. I'll now have more welcoming local members up and across the breadth of Queensland, but I have found the engagement with Queensland so important. This is a growing state. This is a dynamic state, and it has such an important role to play in the Commonwealth.
With Prime Minister, with the ongoing discussions around the $2.5 billion over the Brisbane Arena, speaking of sport,
Sure.
It seems a little bit chicken or egg. The federal government won't give up the money until they know what it can be spent on, but then how can the state do the costings until they know what money they can count on? What information does your government need to make the decision, and when will you make that decision by?
Well, I might see if the Sports Minister wants to make some comments on this, but I wouldn't have thought it was unreasonable to say that you don't come up with, a briefcase full of cash and say, here it is, spend it on whatever you want. That's not the way that we deal with things. And we have asked the Queensland Government have changed their position a range of times. We have made it clear that we want to support the Olympics. I have been unequivocally supportive of the Olympics from the time of the bid and throughout it all. I have a good relationship with the Premier. We'll engage constructively, but we'll make sure that this event that will transform this city, it will lift it up even further. Brisbane is a global city right now, but bringing the Olympics here has the potential to really turbocharge it to the world and to be an important national event as well, which is why the Commonwealth, it's legitimate for us to participate. But when we're doing it as well, what you want to do is to make sure that there is a legacy, to make sure that after the Olympics and the Paralympics have been held, that people in a few years' time say, isn't that good? That legacy has been left, whether it be a housing legacy. I know in Sydney the transformation of the Olympic precinct there has made an enormous difference. In Melbourne, of course, it made a difference as well. So, Annika?
Thanks, PM. We made very clear to the Queensland Government in the final days before we entered caretaker, when they announced their master plan on federal budget day, that we welcome the positive changes that would see better value for taxpayers. We committed to our $3.43 billion contribution, the largest ever from a federal government by comparison. It was $500 million from the federal government for the Sydney 2000 Olympics. And we asked for further detail. The Prime Minister wrote to the Premier saying, you don't have to worry about us squibbing on the deal. We love the games, we want to make it a success, but we need to see that detail. And we make no qualms about there being 2 major venues, 19 minor venues, us needing to see that there is value for taxpayer money before we sign on to which particular elements of that we will deliver as the federal government. One of the things we loved about the Brisbane Arena is that we could say to people from Karratha or Bendigo, this is something that you can enjoy when you come to Brisbane, when you come for Magic Round or you come for Dua Lipa or whomever, you will enjoy the arena as part of your experience in Brisbane. So we're still looking for that national value for money, and we look forward to receiving the detail from the Deputy Premier.
Thanks. Yeah.
Would the federal government support a bid for a US company to lease the Port of Melbourne?
We've said we want to see it in Australian hands. I notice this speculation which is there, but we'll examine the process. We're determined to make sure it's in the national interest for it to be in Australian hands, but if there are other proposals, we'll work those through, but we'll work those through on a commercial basis.
Prime Minister, the Labour Friends of Palestine group says that ranking following with your party want the government to go further than your strong comments this week, including following the likes of the UK and France and Canada, in pointing towards possible sanctions. Is that something you're considering joining in international leverage and sanctions if Israel doesn't change course?
No, we follow our own path, and Australia determines our own foreign policy, and we've been very consistent the whole way through. And what people don't say when they put forward ideas like this is what that means. We currently have, for example, unlike some of those countries, we don't provide military assets to Israel or to that region. So we're in different circumstances, but we make it clear, as we have consistently, we want to see a ceasefire. We want to see hostages released. We see Hamas has no role in the future, but we also want to see humanitarian aid delivered to people in Gaza. So we've been very consistent, and we as a government will continue to act in that way.
I suppose, is Israel going to do that without being made to through sanctions or some other?
Well, what are the sanctions you're suggesting?
I'm not sure.
Exactly. That's the point. You're not sure. And that's not criticism of you.
Sure.
It's just a reflection of the reality. And sound bites can make a difference. What really makes a difference, though, they make a difference in rhetoric. What we're interested in is substance. What we want is peace and security for both Israelis and Palestinians. We've made it clear that we support a two-state solution that's been bipartisan position for a long period of time.
Prime Minister, your Resources Minister has urged the gas sector to collaborate with the government on looming environmental reforms. How soon would you like to see the federal environmental laws changed?
Well, we want to see collaboration across the board. That's the way our government operates. That's what Jim does as the Treasurer. That's what Annika's going to do as the Communications Minister, as well as in sport. We collaborate across the different levels of government. We collaborate with the private sector, with the business community. That's what we want, and we collaborate with the non-government sector as well. I've made it clear that both the environmental movement as well as the business sector say that the current EPBC Act isn't fit for purpose. Therefore, it needs reform. We'll work those things through, and another great Queenslander in Senator Murray Watt has been tasked with doing that.
Prime Minister, this week, sorry.
The Queensland government just announced 9 new sites for gas exploration. How important is it that they have mandated domestic storage capabilities to help bring down energy prices for consumers?
Well, we think that gas has an important role to play. It provides for firming capacity. When you're looking at the role, for example, in areas like Gladstone here in Queensland, and the aluminium sector is just one, where you need that firming capacity as more and more there's reliance upon renewables. Our view is renewables backed by gas, backed by batteries and backed by hydro is the way forward for Australia. We'll await and see whether the coalition continue with their nuclear fantasy, one that I note was not backed by the LNP government here in Queensland. This is friendless, except for within their federal caucus. And a lot of that's just about, who's a majority and who the leader is and what the positioning is. Pretend people like Matt Canavan with his dress-ups. It's what we actually need is real solutions and real investment going forward.
As well as opening up all those new gas fields, the Christopher Lee government this week scrapped $1 billion wind farm in central Queensland, and there are up to 100 others potentially in the firing line. What's your reaction to that?
Well, renewables has an important role to play. And here in Queensland, it has a critical role to play, whether that be solar or wind or batteries. That's an important part of moving forward, and Queensland has a particular opportunity. I've been to Big Kennedy and Little Kennedy up in the north of Queensland with Bob Catter, someone who probably wouldn't be described by most people as a Greenpeace activist. What he understands is that there are jobs and economic activity have resulted because of the hydro project in the old quarry that's been established there. The wind projects with Big Kennedy, Little Kennedy, providing power across the grid with the copper string project as well is important. This is an important part of Queensland's future.
This one was scrapped because of community opposition. 85% of locals in the Rocky region were in opposition to this Moonlight Range wind farm. Do you accept community opposition as a means to halt wind farm development?
Well, community, I was watching the ABC the last night, I think it was, over the last couple of nights. I was amazed by Bridget McKenzie speaking at a community meeting about a renewable energy project, about a battery project. This is the same person who's out there going to the wall over a nuclear power plant. I don't see demonstrations up and down the coast, including in regional Queensland, of people marching, chanting, what do we want, a nuclear power plant, where do we want it now? It is extraordinary that the LNP nationally, or the Liberal Party or the National Party, depending upon which configuration and what time of the day it is, what their groupings are, have engaged in this relentless attacks on energy policy. Now, my government have one energy policy. It's the one we took to the election in 2022. It's the one that we've legislated, and it's the one that we're rolling out. And that's providing investment certainty for business. Now, part of that is that any project have to bring the community with them, of course. So community consultation and community participation is an important part of that.
Prime Minister,
Hang on, Monty. Yep.
a Queensland-based NDIS provider, Coon and its parent company are being accused of charging dead people and prisoners and denying vulnerable disabled people essential services. Today, the director and the parent company have been permanently banned. Should there be a broader systemic inquiry into the problems with the NDIS highlighted by the Coon?
We're getting into it. What we're doing is getting into these rorts and these issues that were there, that were allowed to be there for 10 years. And Bill Shorten did that, and now Jenny McAllister and Mark Butler are continuing to get on top of this. We need to make sure that there's integrity in the system. We need to make sure that the system is made sustainable, and we're working with state and territory governments, but we're also making sure that these sort of things that really are an abuse of the system and are frankly an insult to the people who need the NDIS. We're very proud, and as a nation we should be proud of the fact that we have the National Disability Insurance Scheme. But we need to make sure that there's integrity built in.
Prime Minister, your Sports Minister rightly pointed out value for money will be key with any taxpayer funds moving forward, particularly with 2022. What do you make of the 200 plus private sector expressions of interest for building the arena and the Gallagher Stadium site? Do you think a private sector is value for money if taxpayer funds can go elsewhere?
Oh, look, one of the things that occurs with the structure that's established is the Queensland Government are responsible for this. What we're doing is making a contribution, but with regard to the management, there's a structure in place. I've spoken with Andrew Liveris and I'm in regular contact with him, and my Sports Minister, a great Queenslander, is in charge of the Commonwealth's contribution.
So I'd say by any measure, your victory this month was unusual, right? You've got probably the most number of seats your party's had since John Curtin did a good job. Is it time for Labor to do something unusual? Is this term the term for radical reform?
It's time for us to do what we said we would do at the election. It's time for us to make sure that we continue to grow the economy and that we look after people. That is what we will do. We, of course, are an ambitious government. If you have a look at what we've committed to do, we've committed to lift up bulk billing rates to 90% with our plan that we have for the tripling the bulk billing incentive, the urgent care clinics, the other measures that we've put in place in mental health support. The plan to deliver on the vision that David Gonski had for fair and better funding of schools going forward. Free TAFE, the transition in the economy, the relationships that we have with the region and the world, and that's why my first visit was to Indonesia. As Jim pointed out to a previous question, we live in uncertain times. What we need is certainty going forward. That is what my government will provide. We'll continue to be ambitious. We'll continue to make sure that we make a difference each and every day to work for the interests of not just Queenslanders but everyone right throughout Australia. Thanks very much.